Hi, this is Asim.
This is Sujoy.
This is Amrita.
And you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast about the three main Khans of the Hindi film industry.
Aamir,
Salman,
and Shahrukh.
Hi, you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast regular feed. Thank you so much for your support over the years. We now have a Patreon channel with bonus content and exclusive merch for those of you who would like to support us. Every dollar goes towards creating more and better content. Visit us at patreon.com/Khandaan podcast.
Hi and welcome to a new episode of Khandaan podcast. My name is Asim Bernie and I'm joined with Amrita and Sujoy. Hey Amrita, hey Sujoy.
hello.
Hello.
We are back record. What are we doing? We're doing Dawn. That's what we're doing. Anything else we're doing, by the way? I didn't ask you guys. We're just doing Dawn, right?
Yes, just dawn today.
Amrita, did you watch the original one or you just skipped it? You went straight to the 2006 version?
The Amitabh Bacchan one?
Yeah, I mean, like, we did the episode with Beth.
Yeah.
Did you watch the original then, or is it just, like, far-flung memory now?
I mean, I watch that film, like, every few years. Like, it's one of my favorite Amitabh Bacchan movies. Yeah.
This is, like, I realized, and I didn't want to talk about it last time, I wanted to talk about it here, is, like, I don't think I've had watched the original Dawn in years. It had been a long time because it was one of those VHS movies that I just kept watching. And then I just kind of stopped, or I lost the VHS, or it broke, or, we went to DVDs and stuff like that. And I had not watched it. And watching this one and watching the old one back to back, it really put everything kind of in a different spin for me. But yeah. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into it for sure. Maybe you can start us off, Amrita. What did you think of revisiting Dawn 2006?
I was not expecting it to be so dated right off the bat.
Yeah.
But I will say, so when I say that I watch the original Dawn from time to time, obviously that is also sort of frozen in time, right? It's a very much of its time. But I don't know, there's a dynamic quality to it, like that just sort of makes it enjoyable no matter how many rewatches I go through. And when I say that I rewatch it from time to time, I don't mean that I sit down and watch the whole movie for 3 hours. Like, that is not what I mean. Whether I'm reading or I'm watching one of my old favorites, it's always in bits and pieces. I suddenly remember a certain scene or a certain song, and then I'll go back and I'll watch that particular bit. So that's very comforting, but I've never done that for Dawn, actually. I was thinking about that as I was watching this particular this particular time. And the Shahrukh version is what I mean. I've never actually gone back and watched it beyond that first watch. And I was trying to think of what I thought about it when I first watched it. And I think I really enjoyed it when it first came out because I thought it was clever, which it is. Even now, when I think about the central conceit behind it, where Farhan was basically saying something that I think George Clooney and Steven Soderbergh said when they remade Ocean's 11, which was that they took a really great script that didn't have that great production value, and then they just remade it to the standard that it should have had, which is smart. And I can see why they did it, but I don't know, man. This is not going to be... I'm going to piss off all the Shahrukh Khan fans. I'm sorry. But this is not going to be a rewatch movie for me, I don't think.
Wow, interesting. Sujoy, what about you? Having watched both of them really quickly back to back.
Yeah.
How was this one stand up to you?
So, two bits. When I first watched it, long ago when it released, when it had its theatrical release, I I'm not necessarily a big fan of the original Dawn when I first watched it. It was always there, you know. So being a fan wouldn't be a thing. It was just Amitabh at his peak. But again, you know, you see its age in the movie, and I thought like they really did it well with the source material and like, upgraded all the visuals, everything, brought it like to the noughties era, if you know what I mean. And they did well with that, as well as playing with the concept of Dawn ko pakadna mushkil hi nahi namumkin hai. That particular central theme is what carries this movie, the story forward, right? And both of those were like pivotal in making me like this movie. I think when it was released, part of my friend circle where like it was cool to hate on this movie because they're like, kya twist hai, ye bakwas, you know, and all of that. And like, yeah, I saw it coming and everything. But I think that was smart of what they made of this movie as a remake, and probably this is how you remake it. And especially after watching this almost immediately after the original for the previous episode, you can see the parallels more pronounced in this rewatch. I could do that, and so I saw what it was trying to do, the homage that it was paying in a more obvious way, and I really appreciated it for this time. But I haven't rewatched it in a really long time, so yeah, I found it to be quite interesting.
I think a lot of us had not, like, even when this version of Shahrukh came out, I think we were all comparing it to the memory of the original Dawn. I don't think anybody really went out and watched that movie.
Yeah.
And I think I'll be honest, I never gave this movie a fair shake, to be honest. Like, I never did. One of the reasons just that it was clashing with Janeman. And Janeman, you know, is a Janeman movie of mine. I love it. You know, rest in peace, Shrish Kundar's career. You know, I still believe in you, even though I have seen Mrs. Serial Killer and Joker. You know, so I mean that was a huge thing. We cannot underestimate that's probably one of the biggest clashes that's happened in Bollywood, and it like Dawn just obliterated Janeman, right? And the other thing was also I really, really loved the original version, which I mean I've spoken about many, many times. So I was never fair to this movie. So in a way, revisiting now is probably the first maybe I've watched it once since then, but this was probably maybe my first rewatch or maybe my second one. And I also just feel like I'm in a much more positive place in terms of Shahrukh, that I want to see more Shahrukh on screen. I think if we're ever doing this, you know, a Dawn rewatch, this is probably the best time to do it for me, you know. And it did bring me back to, you know, those 2006 era where a lot of movies came out that were important to us, right? Like that was like a good era that we kind of call, you know, Bollywood used to be good back then, and now it's not anymore, right? So it was interesting. I think let's start getting into this version first, and then we can get back to the comparisons a little bit. First of all, it was just good to see like old faces again, like you know.
but younger.
Yeah, but younger, like faces that I'd not really like I was happy to see Om Puri again. Like, you know, like I haven't seen Om Puri in a while.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, it was just cool that he's, you know, like, although I'd forgotten he had like such a tiny, small role in it. And they made and the girl that played, what's her name again?
Isha Kopikar?
Yeah, that's the name. Yeah, Isha Kopikar. Again, one of those faces that you don't see anymore. Arjun Rampal, even, like, you don't see those people as much on screen anymore. And it was just good to kind of, you know, see...
Chunky Pandey.
Chunky Pandey, yeah. Although I would argue we see too much of the Pandey family lately anyway. So, but yeah. What did you guys think of, like, the new additions and the faces from 2006 and seeing them back again?
I can't necessarily say or talk about them without comparing of the previous versions, right? Like Narang played by Pawan Malhotra here, and versus who played it in the original? The guy with the really funny eyes,
Yeah.
and that's such an inspired casting, I think. But Narang here doesn't really have much to do other than, the Narang in the original has so much more. But again, to cast Pran's role as Arjun Rampal is just... I was like laughing, thinking, what if Arjun Rampal had funnier wig?
A red one? Yeah, a red wig.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a blast from the past, man. Especially I had completely forgotten about Singhania Saab, and Rajesh Khattar pops up all of a sudden, and he is a familiar face from the era of Doordarshan. He is Ishan Khattar's father, and
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah. And he was really popular in television serials in Doordarshan, and he's somebody you would recognize as that guy, and he's one of those in this movie. And it was like, oh, he used to be something.
Yeah, Amrita, what did you think of there's obviously a lot of casting changes that have happened. Who do you think kind of did a good job in the roles that they stepped into? Because I think even when we kind of posted we're doing Dawn and things like that, a lot of people were explicitly hating against Kareena Kapoor as Kamini. That was the one that came up.
So that is what Sujoy was also talking about, when he was talking about Arjun Rampal and Pawan Malhotra and everything. It's a thankless job for the most part for most of these actors to step into the roles that they were given. And that is especially true of Kareena. I remember just how misogynistic the discourse was back then, right? Everybody was like, she's so fat. She's ugly, she can't dance. There were all these things. I remember very clearly.
And to step into the shoes of Helen and dance to Ye Mera Dil,
Exactly. And Helen, by the way, this is how good Helen is, because in the late 70s, which is when Dawn came out and was made, it took a few years for it to be made. But Helen was not at the top of her career back then. She was, you could see, the drinking was beginning to show on her face. She wasn't the same vibe as the 60s or the early 70s. It was a very different Helen who was dancing in Ye Mera Dil. But the thing is, it's such an amazing song. And Helen is so Helen in that song that it doesn't matter. You're not really paying attention to what the makeup might be hiding, etc. You're just absolutely transfixed by her. And it is one of the key classic Helen roles, right? The girl who's trying to take revenge. So whoever stepped into that role, whether it was Kareena or anyone else, they were never going to have an easy time of it. Yeah. They were going to get hated upon anyway. But I think in terms of people who did a good job, I think Priyanka did a good job. To be honest, she took she's never going to be half as cool as Zini Baby, obviously. But she stepped into that role and they expanded it a little bit more. They gave her more to do. They really updated that character in a way that was really good. And I appreciated it. And then, of course, Boman is always good to watch.
Yeah. It's funny for Kareena, to go back to her, I think... this is obviously 2006 Kareena is not the Kareena we have now. And even at that time, she was going, she has that mythical quote where she says, I've delivered more flops than anybody else, but I'm still a star, that kind of thing. I don't know how I'm paraphrasing whatever she was trying to say. But this was still her flop era, Jab We Met had not come out yet, Yeah. This is the year that she did Omkara. So we're not, before that, it wasn't really the Kareena we have. And you can see it on her face that she's just not as magnanimous as she is now. And she doesn't like playing second fiddle. But I also feel that they did update the story. They try to do a bit more, even in her role, but it is still a very thankless role, and she's let down by the choreography. She's let down by the costume design. I mean, it's not even about she's fat or whatever. It's just that the dressing is really bad. No, Amrita, like I feel that.
Yeah.
Or is that just 2006 fashion? I don't know what it is, but even then, I remember it just does not look good.
I think it also just did her no favors. Like whoever did her hair in this movie just like really did her dirty, because she just has this weird little wave. I don't even understand what that is. Which is actually a point that I wanted to make about this film, which is that when I first watched it, I thought it was like really cool in the way that they did the concentric dissolves and the little nods to 70s fashion and everything. That was like really cool. But now that I rewatch it and we have a little bit of distance, I feel like these are the things that make it sort of straitjacketed as a movie watching experience. Like it's a little too meta. Like it's a little too aware of itself. It's self-conscious basically. And I feel like little touches like Kareena's hair and the dress that they gave her, which did her no favors, as you pointed out. Like these are things that just really detracted from the entire like watching experience of it.
And I do think she's trying to do the best she can with the role. Like I like that, like even in the choreography, she's basically having like a whole ass discussion with the camera, right? Like she's showing despair, she's doing that wide-eyed Kareena thing she does, so she is trying to add a little bit more. And also she's showing pain a lot in that situation where, she has to be with this man who has killed her fiance. But it just then ends with such brutality. Like her death is so brutal. And that feels what you're saying, Amrita. There's this attitude in the whole movie about, we're such bad boys, we're going to do a bad boy version of Dawn. And I think sometimes they take it a bit too far, and it just doesn't, I don't know, it just feels weird watching it. Like I was wondering, like, is that even Kareena lying there on the floor while the elevator doors are like hitting her repeatedly on the head? I don't see Bebo doing that. It's probably some body double that they put in, because I mean it's just such a brutal death to this character, and I don't think they put Helen's character through that same way. I mean, it didn't stand out to me, at least, and I've literally watched the movie like a week ago. Yeah, we were also talking a bit about Roma, right, with Priyanka Chopra. I agree with you. I think she does a great job. Although I did wonder what Roma's job is. Like,
so she hasn't joined. I think like when we first see her, she's just like doing Tai Chi. Like that's her job. She goes to the gym and she does Tai Chi.
Yeah.
And then. And then like she hasn't joined the weird like what is it? It's not the CBI,
Interpol, right?
Interpol, that's right.
Interpol, in the second one, she becomes like a full-on Interpol agent.
I do enjoy the fact that there is Interpol. Like I feel like we don't have enough movies with Interpol in it.
Yeah, we need more Interpol for sure.
Like the whole of the 60s and 70s, like you couldn't get away from Interpol. Like everything was like, oh my god, Interpol ne kaha hai. Like,
it's just a cool name for an agency, Interpol. I like saying it.
I think the only time I've heard of it outside of like Bollywood, like 60s and 70s Bollywood, is the Da Vinci Code, where like, I remember in the first movie, Robert Langdon was just like, oh, Interpol. And I was like, yay, this feels like home. And they're just as useless as they were in Bollywood. But yeah, Interpol doesn't, like, she hasn't joined Interpol yet.
I like that you put it in twice still. Just saying the word feels nice.
But also, why like the one thing that is never explained in any Bollywood movie, including this one, is like, why is Interpol like all up in Don's business? Because everybody's Indian. So I'm just like, maybe somebody from the Indian government should be involved as well. But like, no, like Indian government is like, no, please, you please handle it. We can't be bothered. So Interpol is also like full of Indians, and they're all just like, विदेश में जाके Indians को पकड़ेंगे. So yeah.
You might not remember this, Amrita, but in the original one, Vardhan, played by Om Shiv Puri, he's apparently not playing an Indian. He's like, oh, I come from Interpol, and I hear in India there's this criminal activity going on. That's how they played. So I'm glad that they didn't choose like, Boman Irani saying I'm not Indian kind of setup, They didn't do that.
But that is, that's... I love this. See, this is why I love like 60s and 70s Indian movies, because they make no sense, and you just like
Madan Puri famously played a Chinese guy somewhere.
Yes, I remember.
So we're trying to figure out what Roma's job is. That's where we are.
Oh, I don't know. She kicks ass.
Yeah, she kicks ass.
A professional ass kicker.
Yeah.
So
pre-Interpol trainee, that's what she is.
I did enjoy the fact that when she goes for her job interview with Don, he's just like, why are you here? And she's just like, yeah, like this guy thought that maybe I could work for you. Like, why? She's like, I killed somebody, so now I'm qualified.
Yeah. That's a nod to the original, right? How Zenith gets recruited as well.
Yeah, we established that Narang is basically HR. Narang
is HR. And they also like reduced the Deepu Munni to just Deepu in this movie.
Which is good, because honestly, even in the original, Munni was just like a side character. She didn't do much.
Like side ka bhi side.
Yeah, she doesn't even dance well. Like, I don't know whose daughter Munni was, but here they nixed her,
Yeah.
But the other thing what's also funny, speaking of Roma and, the 2006 version, is that everybody does Kung Fu in this movie, right? Everybody. Like, this is so post-Matrix, right? Everybody. It's that, not even post-Matrix, is the Romeo Must Die era. Remember? Alias Romeo Must Die? This is that era. Everybody's wearing leather. Everybody's doing Kung Fu. Even Boman Irani is doing Kung Fu, which is so disconcerting. Because, first of all, we just saw Three Idiots, and then seeing straight Boman Irani is like seeing, your school principal in casual clothes or something like that. It's like the virus had a post-divorce glow-up, that kind of thing. Like, it seems weird and it doesn't make any sense. Do you guys know that Ed O'Neill, Ed O'Neill from Modern Family?
Yeah.
He has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
What?
Like, he's a proper fighter. That's what this feels like. What the feeling you just had, that's what it feels like watching Boman Irani do Kung Fu in Dawn. It just seems like, what? Like, what is going on here? It's weird.
But I have to say, like, nobody looks... Like, the one person this movie did right by was Priyanka. Because Priyanka looks amazing. Like, her introduction scene where, like, her body looks amazing. Her outfit is, like, very 2000s, but, like, very, like... It's still pretty stylish.
It also was her era, right? Like, this is Priyanka's era. Like, this is peak Priyanka.
So, yeah, like, this was, like, very much Priyanka's gig, I think.
Yeah. But, like, what about Shahrukh's Kung Fu though? Like, I have to say, like, watching it now, like, Shahrukh is having so much fun, and he's just reveling in doing some action again, because he was literally stuck in the Rahul role for so long before this. Like, he had Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna, he had Swades, he had Veer Zara, Main Hoon Na, Kal Ho Na Ho, Sathiya, Hum Tumhare Hain Sanam, Devdas. These are all movies that happened before that. And last time he could do some action was in 1 2 Ka 4, which was 6 years ago. So you can see the kind of, he's really, really enjoying kicking some ass in this, right? It shows.
Yes, but also there's like a couple of things that really stand out to me when I watch this performance of Shah Rukh's. So for me, like Shah Rukh's performance in Dawn 2 is the superior performance.
Yes. Yeah.
But in this one, like what happens is like, especially if you watch it right after the original Dawn, you can really tell the difference between Amitabh, who is inhabiting that character. He is Dawn. Like, not the second half, but like in the first like 20 minutes or something, where you see like him being Dawn and he's being a badass and he's just a lean, mean killing machine. He is menacing and he is quiet and he is threatening. Shah Rukh is flamboyant, right, in how he approaches his bad guys.
Shah Rukh is doing a Tony Montana. That's what he's doing.
That's what it is. That is what it is. So, he's making kissy faces at the opposition. He is doing like quips. He's sort of
playing golf.
He's almost flirting with all the people that he is killing or, or beating up. Which is a choice and which is very much Shah Rukh's choice. But I don't, like, for me, like, this is one of the things why, like, this movie doesn't really work for me. Like, that's not, like, how I want Dawn to be.
Yeah. Also, this is not my favorite Shah Rukh. Like, this version of Shah Rukh is not my favorite Shah Rukh,
And
I don't know, man. This totally works for me.
It works for you? This is your kink? This is it?
I mean, not about kink, but this is bringing me, like, preparing me for Pathan in a way. And I like the, if Dawn, when Amitabh says, Dawn ko pakadna namumkin nahi, mushkil nahi namumkin hai, and when Shah Rukh says it, it's more like, Amitabh has the voice and Shah Rukh has the laugh, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. But the other thing that I really didn't like about this film is like when he does this. We were having this discussion, right, about like taporis and like how that particular generation was the last generation to be able to convincingly play a tapori on screen. And then I was watching this film and I was just like, what? There's that scene where he is listening to Vardhan tell him like, that he should come play Dawn, and he's picking his nose. And he's picking his nose like he's never picked a nose in his life. He's just like, kisi ne use bataya hai ki like, like, this is how you pick a nose and this is what it's the equivalent of Hrithik putting on grease on his face every time he's asked to play like a poor person, where he's just like, well, I'm poor, I must be dark. It's the same thing with Shah Rukh, where he's like, I'm poor, I must have no hygiene. So he's just like sitting there, like it's a very inauthentic sort of moment in the entire performance, which again, like sort of took me out of the experience.
But also, like, towards the second half, it becomes believable because it's not Vijay. It's Dawn playing Vijay. So that kind of works because Shah Rukh cannot play poor.
He's Paidaishi Reis.
Yeah. Oh, kya baat hai.
I think this is the main central problem that I have with this version of Dawn. Like I at least root for Vijay to be the winner, to be the one I'm following, the one I'm connected with. Here, because it is performance-wise, he is Dawn. He's never been Vijay, so there is that element to it. But it is that, like kicking the shin, being rebel kind of thing. We're going to kill Vijay. Like, why? Vijay was the guy I rooted for. And now everything becomes kind of, marred in that way that, everything was fake, right? And that is just something that just doesn't work. It just doesn't work for me. And I think you need to be bowled over by how cool Dawn is as a character.
Yeah.
But when I've grown up with Amitabh's coolness, this doesn't, like, that role was written by Salim Javed for Amitabh, right? Like, it fit him like a glove. And here they can change things, they can do things, but these roles are not written for Shahrukh, right? And I don't think Shahrukh is bringing himself. I do think Shahrukh can play poor or middle class or anything like that, or even Tapori, but I don't think here he's doing a good job at it. And there's just this manicness to Vijay that I don't feel he's settled in as much as he was in Dawn 2. I think Dawn 2 has much more confidence, where the first Dawn doesn't. Maybe it's the shadow of the original. This was one of the first major remakes that was ever made too, right? Like this level of remake, an Amitabh movie, and Shahrukh is going to do it. Like the names that are attached already are very, very high. And I don't think they could really find...
Again, guys, you guys are overthinking it. We already established if you see attractive people kick ass, wearing really swanky suits and, going to expensive locations and drinking champagne, that's good enough for me. And if you see Shahrukh playing that, what more do you need?
But see, the thing is, if this was produced by Sajid Nadiadwala, I'd give it to you. But this is produced by Excel. They want you to get something more out of it than pretty people looking bad.
And I think they established that. I think they were quite successful in doing that. Shahrukh playing a version of Ethan Hunt meets Bourne, meets some sort of a criminal, international killari even, I think they established that by updating the package in which it comes. From the introduction scene of the money exchange gone wrong to Aaj Ki Raat, to all the action scenes that are in this movie compared to, and even like locations like the JJ scene where Pran is infamously crossing on a wire. Here it's updated to the Petronas Towers, which makes more sense because he's JJ is not really what was I lost my train of thought, but what I was saying is, I think they were quite successful in bringing not just an old wine in a new bottle, but the wine is more fermented in this, I think.
So like, what about, like, there are a few other plot changes that also happened here in this movie, right? Like, first of all, the Vardhan reveal happens it happens at the interval point.
But also Vardhan is played by De Silva rather than because Iftikhar is now becoming Vardhan in that sense.
Well, I mean, Iftikhar should be Om Puri, right? That should be what it is. But like De Silva gets the everything to do. Like Om Puri is like a side character almost. Like he's non-existent, and everything that the Iftikhar character originally did, here we see Boman Irani's DCP De Silva do. And it also feels like he's been embedded in the police for like he's Leonardo DiCaprio in Departed or something. Like, how long has he been a cop? Like, and how long has he been? Like a lot of it like doesn't necessarily make sense, right? Like. If you look at it that way.
I mean, if you go to the flashback, he's actually wearing a uniform at some point when he's arresting, what's his face? JJ,
Yeah. And even like Arjun Rampal, I don't understand how long he was in jail. Like, because the kid never grows up, Like, so
and he has a man bun.
What did you think of the man bun, Amrita?
I mean, that was that era, right? Like everyone was walking around with like hairbands on their, like Dora the fucking Explorer. But like that's a very like 2000s Bollywood thing.
Yeah, it's like a post Beckham redesign.
Like,
remember like those straight hair with that? What do you call those things in the hair? Like the girls
hairband.
No, not hairband. Like the single piece, like a U-shaped thing.
Yeah, it's called a hairband.
My daughter has one lying around everywhere, but I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, it's called a hairband.
Even Abhishek used to do that, right?
Yeah. Oh, did you? Oh, maybe I should talk about that later. Somebody was talking to Abhishek about Drona. Oh, I gotta get into that later when we talk about it. It was hilarious. For the Into the Breathe season 2
Okay.
season interviews,
Yeah,
it
is
was
that where he was like, everyone wants to see Drona again?
yeah, he was. He was like, oh, there's like, oh, we were basically his thing was we were too ahead of the curve. Now everybody is doing it, but we were first. I was like, dude, what were you smoking, man? Like, seriously, like.
You got Pandit Jagannath to play Gandalf in Drona.
It's very like, stop trying to make fetch happen,
Yeah.
every time.
Should we do a Drona rewatch? Should we do it?
Maybe
I mean-
we'll do it for Patreon.
For
So
Patreon.
let us know if you would like us to do a Drona rewatch.
Yeah. That just seems really, really fun now. Maybe we should have that live when we're all here together. Like, get
Oh, yeah.
and then watch Drona. Oh God. So we spoke about Vardhan a little bit, and I think that one of the reasons is that reveal is happening at interval is because they have another final twist that is going to happen at the end, right? I mean, let's get into the final twist a little bit, right? I think we're going to be running otherwise late. But what did you feel of that? How the twists were placed here, because like the final reveal, I mean, I think the Vardhan reveal is something that's built in the movie. We all expected it, right? That's not something that's mind-blowing to us. But the final one that, it was Dawn all along.
Yeah.
By the way, on IMDb, Dawn's full name is Mark Donald. I don't know why I put that in there, but that is hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, so... And they almost play it like the usual suspects, right? The way Priyanka suddenly gets flashbacks of, mujhe jangli billiyan pasand hai, and then she's walking back slowly, and there's like, oh my God, it was Dawn all along. What did you think watching that now in 2022, Sujoy?
Yeah, retrospectively, it makes sense. If you know that twist, I think they put in enough clues for you to sort of pick it up, but not exactly, say that, oh, it's been done all along. Like when he goes to see Deepu for the first time after he's been, gone into the gang, like after Vardhan has already recruited and he's gone back to the gang, acting as in like he's forgotten all about it, yadash kho gayi hai and all that, and then he goes to meet Deepu for the first time. He cannot recognize Deepu.
Yeah.
And Deepu recognizes him first, and that's a big clue, right? And I got that in this rewatch, and it makes sense. And the whole reveal, it kind of was cool to me, to be honest. Like the whole idea of, again, saying in the making itself, Farhan keeps talking about, the whole idea of this is that Don ko pakarna mushkil nahi namumkin hai, so he cannot be caught. So yeah, I quite appreciate that.
I think this is the thing that I got the most out of it in this rewatch, is that the final reveal is not the fun part of this movie, but it's really Shahrukh playing Dawn, playing Vijay, and being unable to hide the Dawnness while he's playing Vijay. And especially when the whole reveal happens, when he figures out, that Vardhan is De Silva, he cannot hide being Dawn in that moment. But the reveal has not happened, right? So Shahrukh really lays the track of the performance, and he's very clear on what he's playing. But we as an audience have to catch up later. What about you, Amrita? What did you kind of feel of the final reveal and how it worked? How it worked then and how it works now for you?
So when I watched it for the first time, I thought that was like a really cool thing to do, because it really does a good job of taking what you know and then just flipping it on its head, right? Like it's structurally, it makes a lot of sense, and it makes a lot of sense even now. But in terms of the integrity of who these characters are, and that is something that you can't take away from a remake, right? Because anytime you have a remake, you will have an audience that has watched the original, has connected with the original. And in terms of Dawn, like it's a cult movie, like everybody is like, everybody has opinions about it. So we have like a sense of like who these people are and what the arc of the story is, etc. And like you said, Asim, earlier on, it just sort of ruins the whole integrity of that journey for this character, right? Like the fact that Vijay gets murdered that early on and we don't really see him apart from that. It sort of makes a mockery out of the fact that we were rooting for this character. And in a way, like this movie is very much part of a trend that began around that time in not just Bollywood, but in Indian cinema, where, see, traditionally when you have masala movies and you have characters like Don, they always come to a bad end, right? Like the moral of the story is that crime never pays. So you have, whether it's in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all the Tapori films, the gangster films, at the end of it, the guy has to pay somehow. He either goes to jail or he ends up dead or like something happens to make him pay. But starting from the 2000s, I think that really changed. And what happened was that we have all these people who are gangsters or criminals, but they are getting away with it, which is a significant shift in morality as we're seeing it on film. And I think Dawn is very much a pillar of that change that we are continuing to see. Like, I think it's very evident in Telugu films, and I was beginning to get into Telugu films at that point because I just discovered Mahesh Babu. So, like, I was watching a lot of Telugu movies at the time, and I remember, like, watching it and being like, oh, like, this is interesting. Like, I didn't really expect this. But yeah, like I think like this is where I trace it back to, like Dawn becoming like super successful with a bad guy protagonist or antagonist who becomes a protagonist. That really, I think, had an impact on how we are seeing, Rohit Shetty movies, for example, these days, where, the guy might be a policeman, but is basically a gangster in a uniform. Or you have, I don't know, like a whole bunch of movies.
But I think you're mentioning Telugu and cinema. I think the main name that we haven't mentioned is Ram Gopal Verma, right? Like that being the guy that makes bad guys the good guy and stuff like that. But I think still those elements are still an extension of the angry young man era, where okay, they are bad guys, but they are fighting a system or a community or something like that that is the bigger evil. Here, Don is just a bad guy. Like there is no redemption to him except him being Shahrukh and him being a cool dude. Like finding it. And I think they switch a lot of that in Don too. They take away his brutality. Like here, like the way he kills Kamini, the way he kills Ramesh, the way he treats Roma, and that is like really cold-hearted. And I think a lot of that, they make it playful, or they don't, like the people he's fighting is, in Don 2, I mean, it is other criminals, right? He's not killing innocents anymore. And I think that in the first one, that shift is too harsh. He's just not a good guy to, root for. And that's what I have a problem with. He's not fighting a system. He's just cool because it's cool to be the bad guy. And that is the central problem that I still have with this 2006 version.
I think that's what, if you just make the same Dawn movie, which is the 1978 movie, and just have that switch that it wasn't Vijay, it was Dawn, then it becomes like the Vijay does not win, right? And so Dawn becomes the winner of that entire story. And so everything does not have that morality attached to it. And so then it becomes about and so the problem is that they needed to stick to the original structure and the story ideas, but with that twist, and so they could not justify it on that scale. And with Dawn 2, obviously they were independent to carry forward the story with this character who is supposedly an antagonist, but then he has his wings to fly. He can do whatever you want. You can put him in under different circumstances, and he almost becomes a catalyst to good things that happen in that movie. And they did not have that freedom. So by sticking to the original story, obviously that brings all those restrictions to what they wanted to do, and obviously that doesn't work for some people, and for me it does.
I'm surprised how much on board you are with this movie.
I completely, yeah.
Yeah, you really like it. Yeah. What did you think of the songs then? Like, a few were remakes.
Yeah, I did not like the remix.
Yeah.
Remixes. Even though like Kaike Pan Banaras Wala has a bit where Shahrukh is singing, which is fun, and Udit Narayan singing a Kishore Kumar song, always fun. But it was too. The remix was just, I don't know. It's a a village dhol tashe wale song, and they put like some sort of a remix into it, and I did not like that vibe at all. But on the other hand, the retro vibe of Aaj Ki Raat is my jam. All these years, I play that song so many times. It's amazing.
Can I admit something publicly by embarrassing myself?
What?
I really till this rewatch thought that Aaj Ki Raat was a remake of an older song that I didn't know. To only now realize that's an original composition.
But it is kind of sampled from like different like Donna Summers or whatever,
No, but I thought literally this was a song from the 60s or the 70s that I'd just not heard.
Yeah.
And they just remade it. So, I mean, kudos, like how well they remade it. That it like totally fooled me until, for literally 15 years, like I didn't know.
And also like Moria Re, it's a Ganpati song, which like rarely happens these days. And I really enjoy, like they updated Bombay Nagaria to Moria, and the canvas is much larger, so you get to play around with Ganpati and all of that.
Okay, guys, how inclusive is Papa Moria? Like, there's literally Muslims, Christians, everybody's dancing in there. Like, it's like how much has changed in since 2014. Like, it's just that because I'm seeing Shahrukh dance in like saffron flags, right? And like, I'll be honest, like at this moment, my alarm bells start ringing when I see that kind of imagery, right? And it's sad. It's sad that we've come to a stage where, just like, religious things have become coded with violence now, right? But then when I calm myself down, and honestly, it's always that thing where Shahrukh, Aamir, Salman will not lead us astray. They will not create communal issues. And then he has like, Muslim topis and like Punjabi guys, and everybody's in it. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. This is really, really cool. I thought, and I'd never really given that song its due, but I got it. Like the choreography and the way it's shot, it's very inclusive, and it now feels from a different era.
Yeah.
Amrita, what did you think of the songs?
So like Sujoy, like I'm not a big fan of the remixes, especially Kaike Pan Banaras Wala. Like the original is forever my jam. But I actually do like Ye Mera Dil, like as a composition. Like Sunidhi Chauhan is phenomenal, and I really don't have a problem with that song. But yeah, like Sujoy said, like Aaj Ki Raat is the clear, hands down winner. Like I love everything about it. I love the way that it's staged. I love the choreography. I love the things that happen in the film during that song. And it is just a wicked beat. Like I really enjoy it.
Yeah. And also, like during that song, right, the wheels have turned, right? Like the plan has begun from Don's side to do whatever he wants to do, and the lyrics of that song during that, even Anita is in, like Isha Kopikar's character is in, and she says like, hang on.
I felt good for Isha that she had a song.
Yeah,
she got to shake a leg, I thought that's kind of cool.
And she has those lyrics, "Kaun kiske dil mein hai faisla hoga, faisla hai yahi jeet hogi meri," and she's like, she knows, like she is the main character, so that was cool.
Yeah, even in our Patreon poll that we ran, Aaj Ki Raat was clearly the favorite out of all the songs that our audience picked for. So yeah.
And obviously the title track, Main Hoon Dawn, is like shot amazingly, but it's not my favorite track.
Yeah. Any final things you want to say about Dawn, Amrita? Any point that you missed out or you want to bring up?
Yes, Farhan, Akhtar, when will we see Dawn 3?
How good would that role have been if it was just 30 minutes of us asking Farhan to release Dawn 3? You know, that would be like the perfect trolling moment. Thank all of Excel in it, you know?
Yeah.
Comment under every selfie he does, you know? Like just
Yeah. Yeah, I have two pieces of trivia to add to the conversation. The one is when Kamini is trying to seduce Dawn for the first time. Kareena is on the dance floor. The music that's playing in the background is a sample of Koi Kahe Kehta Rahe from Dil
yeah,
Chahta Hai.
that one too, yeah.
Yeah, and then the other one was just before Khai Ke Paan Banaras Wala, when Shahrukh and Priyanka are in the Indian part of Malaysia or Kuala Lumpur, where they are escaping from the police, and they enter the Indian portion where just before meeting the people, there was a disco party that was going on, and they were playing Chali 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 Ishq Di Hawa Chali from Bagwan, which is a Amitabh Bacchan movie.
Yeah, nice callbacks, yeah.
By the
I think
way,
that-
we haven't spoken about the Shahrukh Priyanka chemistry.
You know, Amrita, I actually listened to our Dawn 2 episode and that I posted before this, and we talk at length about that. So, I think if we, unless you have other points you want to add to that, but I think we've already discussed it in the Dawn 2 when this was actually happening.
Yeah.
Or that was actually when it was happening. Here it was like, I mean, shuruaat hai. This is only foreplay, you know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the problem with Khai Ke Paan Banaras Wala is there's just no fat guy shaking his belly.
Yeah.
I think that's what it needed, right? The only thing I had is like, also with this 2006 era, like everything is shot in green and blue filter. You know, it's that era of Excel that is very Karthik versus Karthik, you know, that kind of thing. Karthik calling Karthik, whatever that movie was called.
Yeah.
But Excel, man, amazing production values, yeah. Like, I mean, great job. They weren't as big as they are now. It's 2006, but what an ambitious, you know, and classy way to take on. I think they pulled it off with Elan, you know, and I think that is something at least to be applauded, you know. It might not have worked for me entirely. I'm a bit more positive than I was when I initially saw it. But you got to give it up to Excel for delivering this, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Like even the simple scene of introduction of Dawn in the first movie, where Dawn just pulls up in the car and he throws the suitcase with the bomb to, you know, for the transaction gone wrong, right? And that scene transforms into the Paris action scene where you get introduced to Dawn with Chunky Pandey and the dialogue bazi, and then the action scenes with the watch and everything. So cool. So cool.
And we're even rarely in India. We're like, even that Khai Ke Paan Banaras Wala, that's a wedding in Malaysia, right? That's where it's happening.
Yeah.
Like, we're really almost not in India. So, I mean, that's spending money, huh? Like, it's pretty cool that they did this.
And like, I think I read in a trivia section that the president of Malaysia then opened up like the Petronas Tower. This is the only movie that was shot on the Petronas Tower ever.
Yeah. If you do it for Shahrukh, right?
Absolutely,
like, I would open my tower for Shahrukh.
That sounded wrong.
I was watching, I will say, like, you know, in the opening scenes when he's traveling across Paris. And I was just like, oh, wait. I was just like going through like all the conversations we've had about Paris on this podcast. And I was like, oh, now he's in like the nice part of Paris, but I can see that he's going to the seedier parts of Paris. And I was just like waiting for somebody to take a dump on the sidewalk or something.
Or Sanjay Kapoor to show up.
Yeah. I mean, that's it for this episode, I think. Yeah, anything else we want to do? No, I think we're done, right?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'm just going through trivia. Akshay Kumar was originally offered the role of Jasjeet, but he turned it down. That's crazy.
That would have been good, actually.
Yeah, that would have been good. Yeah, that would have worked. I mean, it's a small role. I get that he didn't want to do it, but we've literally never had a Shah Rukh Akshay movie, right? That's never happened before.
Yes, we have. There's Dil To Pagal Hai.
Oh, wow.
Right. Yeah,
but also, like, would you believe, I mean, I don't believe Arjun Rampal as a software programmer, but I don't know if the password would be everything is planned if Akshay Kumar was in it.
Cool. Amrita, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at AmritaIQ.
Sujoy?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at 9E3K, and you can follow Khandaan Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Khandaan Podcast.
Aamir, Asim, Bernie, drop us an email at youpodcasting@gmail.com. As you've seen, we've been experimenting with shorter episodes. Let us know what you think about that. We're kind of like experimenting with the format, so we're keen to hear from you. So drop us an email or find us on social. And become a Patreon from $1. Support our work. And thank you for listening.
Khandaan Podcast, Bollywood acting.